Hey, it's YouTube. Goratha here. I have been asked a lot of questions over the last couple of days about my Spark video, and if I was going to update it for 3.20. And I've decided to make a video for you guys to update it. I would like to say though, before we get into it, the other video, the 3.9 video, is completely up to date still. There's only one change this league from last league, but I have changed the tree into a tree I think is better for league starting. Before we get into it, I want to get into the nerf. The nerf I'm talking about is Pious Path. Inquisitor is getting hit by a nerf. I think this is targeted at Righteous Fire. However, we kind of got hit in the crossfire. Pious Path is losing the 50% increased effect of concentrated ground you create. That's getting removed completely. That sounds really bad. It's about a 33% nerf. We're losing a bit of regen. But for this build, it doesn't really change anything we're doing. It does, however, make it harder to run Righteous Fire if you wanted to min-max and go in that direction. But this build doesn't do that anyways, so it's just a bit of a regen nerf. Now, getting into the changes. So these are changes I decided to make the build more league start viable. So with the changes from 3.18 to 3.19, suppression is a lot harder on gear. So in order to make up for that, I've decided to drop Arcane Potency, Purity of Flesh, and Sovereignty. And that is in favor of getting more duration, Mage Vein, and Reflexes. We also need the Grace Reservation Mastery to run Grace and Determination, because we're losing Sovereignty. This has a nice side effect of giving us more strength, which is basically crit, and some armor evasion from the Sentinel node. This whole pathing is just super efficient, and I think it's better overall. It'll give us more suppression, and it'll be easier to gear, and we'll have some res as well. Now, a nice side effect of this is we actually get to run Critical Strike chance is increased by chance to suppress spell damage again. The other build really didn't have the option to ever take this. We had to take the 12% suppression, but with good gear now, you can run this mastery again, which is it's 100% crit chance, so I mean it's pretty good. And that's all I want to talk about the tree. I did want to talk about mana though. A lot of people seem to have issues with mana with this build. Now, with the changes to the tree, you can only run Grace or Determination early on, which sounds bad, but it's fine. You can just run Grace and like Clarity. Grace, Clarity, and Hail of Ice or something like that. Once you grab the Grace Reservation Mastery, you can run Determination as well. Early on, however, if you have mana issues, you can grab Dreamer, and you're going to be taking a Lyra, and potentially you can run Clarity. Like, if you don't want to use mana pots at all, running Clarity with a Lyra, you should be completely fine. Later on, you can drop Clarity and take Dreamer. However, if you have any mana regen on a gear, or like flat mana regen on a gear, you shouldn't have to run these later on. Like my endgame POB, my endgame character didn't need to run this at all. Speaking of ores, we are dropping Tempest Shield. Tempest Shield honestly was just an ore we threw in because we had extra reservation. But since we're dropping Sovereignty, we don't really have the option to do that anymore. That sounds bad, but honestly it wasn't that big of a deal. The only change here is we're going to run Goratha for shock reduction, and potentially some of the new jewels. So the new jewels have reduced shock effect on them, like higher percentage. That should be good, and that should be fun. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about with the auras and Orbis Storm. So a lot of people are asking, like, what are you doing with Orbis Storms? Why is Orbis Storms in this POB? Now, Orbis Storms kind of hard carries this character during the campaign. Like Orbis Storms, Onslaught, Isolite, Ally Prolif. You honestly not really need to even cast Spark that much, at least during the campaign, if you have like any flat damage. Orbis Storms will just be carrying you, you'll be getting frenzy charges, you'll be freezing everything, so it's super safe. And on bosses, you'll just like put Orbis Storms down and spam Spark into like a tornado, and you should be good to go. That's why we're using Orbis Storms. It also helps quite a bit during early maps as well. And just until you get your character up and going, it'll be pretty strong. You can also just leave it in forever too. Like eventually you can run like an Innovate on it and Onslaught and just use it as like a buff bot. Getting like Onslaught, Innovate, all that good stuff. Another side effect I did not mention with the tree changes is duration. So duration is super big for Spark. And getting more duration gives us another Spark potentially. So we go from 4 to 5. That's another benefit of the tree change. And it's kind of all I wanted to talk about. I did want to mention the amount of buttons you press. The focus helmet we use is a big help in that regard. So we're using Sigil Power, Tornado, and Sniper Sword in the helmet. This allows us to press focus and cast all of these at the same time. Now, if you guys don't know how focus works, I mentioned in the other video, but I'll quickly talk about it again. If you have any craft that has a focus on it, like triggered socket spells and you focus, you'll get the focus keybind, which will allow you to press this and use all the spells with an instant cast. So basically, it's just a huge quality of life thing and makes your DPS ramp up super fast. Now, with like button presses, this build is pretty extreme with it. You also use Frost Shield, which I recommend self-casting, and I personally also self-cast the Sniper's Mark as well. So in order to do like massive damage on this character, you really do have to press a lot of buttons. So yeah. But like if you just want to map and just map fast, Spark is pretty good for that too. Just hold down Spark, or Storms occasionally, you'll be good to go. Trickster versus Inquisitor. I do want to mention this really quickly. Trickster is actually quite a bit faster, I think, at mapping, and safer as well. However, Trickster struggles a lot on bosses. It has less damage, and resistant mobs and bosses are just a bit more annoying. However, Trickster is definitely a viable option. I'll link a POB to a Trickster POB in the description below. Both are good, but if you want to do bosses, I still recommend playing the Inquisitor version. Inevitable Judgment is just super strong at killing rares that have high res, basically. Also saves you a lot of gems, so you don't have to use like wave, you don't need curses. Speaking of curses, Whispers of Doom is right on the pathing, so if you want to click even more buttons, you could theoretically take Whispers of Doom and self-cast like Enfeeble or Temp Chains, which is getting buffed next league. I'm personally not going to do that probably, but you could do that if you wanted to. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed this update. I'm going to keep it short, because like I said before, the other video is completely irrelevant still. So I'll link that in the description below as well. And yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, see you guys next time. Hope you guys have a good league start.